Okay, so now we're going to do step 2 of the glazing process. And I kind of want to show you some of the mistakes I first made, certainly regarding the width of the glazing track. So I'm going to do this is the first step anyway. So first you want to come in and you want to take both your fingers, and I put it like this, and you can kind of press down on it. And I stick it here kind of on a, I don't know, 30-degree angle, 45, I don't know. Not good with angles. And you just kind of drag it along with some force. Maybe you have to stick your other hand on there, it's fine. And you'll feel a little pressure on the glass with it dragging along, but don't worry about that. You're not going to cut the glass as long as you're not pressing, too hard. And don't get crazy. But okay, and you kind of pull off the string of glaze there. It's always nice and easy when you have it's real thick. So when I first started, the first few windows I did this, and I was like, wow, it's so nice and straight and smooth. Like, I guess I'm done. And I did all 4 sides, and I thought I was done, and I stuck it outside to dry. Dried for a couple days, and then I brought it back in to paint, and I looked at it, and then I realized, oh boy, I certainly didn't do it right, because that's not how it's supposed to look. So you can see, if you leave it really thick, how far the glaze sticks out. And that's not how you want it. So you want it much thinner than that. And that can be kind of the trick. And that's where you can make it look really good, is if you can get it nice and thin and still make it smooth. That's the real art of glazing. The old masters, they could do it really well. If you come over here, this is a window that's been protected from the elements because of this screened-in patio they built about 50 years ago on my house. And you can see how close to the window the glaze is. It's not quite vertical, but it's pretty close. And let's take it and put it right. You can see how narrow the glazing ribbon is. Up here, you can see it's maybe 1/4 of an inch thick on the bottom. It's very, very narrow. Now they were able to do that because they had the diamond points. For one, the diamond points are really tiny, so you don't have to worry about the points sticking out, and they were just really good at it because they were doing it as a full-time job back then. You can see here also just how thin the glazing ribbon is. So that's the trick. So now we're going to try to replicate that here. So usually what I do is I kind of start on one side. Now I'm using the new type of points on some of this, and so they stick out just a little farther. So I get it to at least that. I get it as thin as that, and we go from there. And sorry if you hear my dog eating. Again, these are not professional videos, so I'm a loud eater. Okay. Sorry about that interruption. So anyway, here we go. All right, so I've already done it once, and now I'm going to go back over, and I'm going to do it again. Now this time, I have a much steeper angle, and I'm going to pull along, and I want to put enough force to really force the glaze out on both sides. Then at the end, you kind of get it to where the point of the spatula is pointed down, and then you kind of pull out. The corners are also a little tricky. First couple windows, you may have a tough time with it, but you eventually get it. And then once again, you take this and you pull this ribbon off. And as you go further and further and make it more and more narrow, the thinner the ribbons will get, and then you kind of just are able to wipe it off with your hand. And then when I show you at the end with the whiting material, you'll see how the final little tiny bits along here will come off. So now, if you come and look above it, it looks a lot more narrow. Even now, I'm guessing that this is still a little bit wide. So I'm gonna lift it up. Look it to the other side, and yeah, sure enough, it's still maybe 1/4 of an inch too thick. Now I'm not gonna probably be able to get it all the way to the edge because I'm just not a pro like that, but I'm gonna do the best I can. Are you able to see that on the camera? Okay. See how it's a little too thick still, but certainly better than it was. But before I get this side super thin, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the other sides because that starts making it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. And don't worry, like you can put your glaze in the middle of the glass and it's strong enough to support it. I've never had a problem. But if you break the glass, don't blame me. The reason I like to put it in the middle is just it's so easy to put the glaze there. Okay, so I did that one. Now I'm gonna go through. Let's throw this one out. Sometimes you may be lucky and you may get it on the first try, but that does not usually happen for me. And again, this is the sash where we left the glass in the window, we left the glass, in the sash. So, you know, theoretically this is the harder of the two sashes to glaze versus the one where it's more perfect because we put the glass, we took it out and cleaned it. But as you can see, it is 98% the same glazing wise because you got rid of all the old nasty glaze. So even though some of that nasty glaze may still be on there, some of that old glaze is still on there, you don't have to, as long as you get most of it off, it won't make a difference. Now once the glaze is on, you can't even tell the difference between the two sashes. Okay, so now I've gotten it pretty smooth, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it down as best as possible to the kind of the thinner, more professional look. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. I do want to come over and look kind of on a bird's eye view. So you can see it's still kind of a little bit thick. I'm going to take it, I'm going to put a little bit more pressure on it. And the reason we wanted to go over it once is you want to get rid of all the extra glaze. It adds a lot of weight. So now we're just it's a lot easier with a thinner ribbon here. So I kind of do is I kind of pull it. Oh, see, that didn't go well. My dog was distracting me. What are you doing? Okay, and you do always kind of want to pull it. And pulling it like this, where a lot of the metal is touching the glaze, really gives it that nice, smooth kind of finish. To the point of your spatula and then pull it up like that. Cut it. Okay, so if you want to come close, Alex, you can see here that there's a little piece that kind of came out. What you can do is you can take a little bit, just put it in there like that. And then you can take your finger, kind of smooth it out. Sometimes this glaze may have a little bit of, undulation to it. A little bit of waviness, that's okay. I mean, especially after you paint, you're not really gonna see it. So now you can see it's quite thin. I'm gonna lift up the glass and see how I'm doing. Okay, yeah, so I mean, I might be able to thin it out a little bit more, which I will try, but it's certainly getting better. I'm gonna thin it a little bit more, but I probably can't go too much more narrow than this. So then I go one more time. But apparently I can go more narrow because I'm still pulling off a lot. There we go. That's my last run. I'm not going to go any thinner than that. It's okay if you have a little bit of glaze showing on the inside. It's not like a hugely noticeable thing, especially after you paint. So now you can see that glaze is really nice thin ribbon. It's nicely set. The other advantage of having really thin ribbons of glaze is you don't have a bunch of weight on the window, which is a good thing. So then you go through and you just smooth it out. I'm using my fingers to kind of pull off the little bits that are coming off of it. Okay, so now I'm going to go and turn off the video. I'm going to do all the rest of the sides, then I'll turn it back on and show you how to clean it up.